So today's question, we're going to be looking at what due diligence does Property Partner do when you're selecting a property, because there's going to be a whole host of things that anybody's going to be interested in when they're looking at a property. I've obviously touched on discount and yield in a previous video. There's a lot more that makes up a property deal, isn't there, Rob? So what do you tend to focus on, I guess, as to makes a perfect opportunity?
Well, for me, it's best described as a filtering process. And so we'll get a whole raft of properties coming through to us, and we can assess these very quickly because we'll bring all the years of experience to bear. So let's look at the photograph. You get a very quick feel of condition on what the ongoing repair and maintenance is going to be. And we still see properties coming through which are non-standard construction.
Sure.
It's just unmortgageable and no.
So straight away, that's not
straight away out. I personally have a sweet spot. I like properties which have been built really between 4 and 10 years.
Okay.
Between 10 years because it's still got the NHB certificate on it.
Yeah.
4 years because it takes around about 4 years for the problems to reveal themselves, and so and be dealt with. There's still quite a lot of snagging with new build construction. I've seen a lot of that with my days at RBS. Examples of developers struggling, and they'll start cutting corners, and it reveals itself very quickly. So that's really my sweet spot. But or older buildings, but they actually have been recently refurbished. So because I've got one eye all the time on the repairs and maintenance and the expenditure and your net income coming out of it. So that's why we look at those. And then we've got a very good feel of the area because we've been running around the country. My portfolios have been UK-wide. Jim's, Bradford Property Trust, is the largest UK landlord at the time. He was up in the north, so he's got a very good handle on up there. I know the southern market, so we know we've got a good feel straight away. If somebody comes to Manchester, I say, no, these are the good areas. That's in the wrong area. Again, don't worry about it. So we're filtering them down to a very small selection of the ones we actually do want to go and spend our time looking at.
Your wish list.
Because we don't have a lot of, time is the enemy here. I went to Sheffield yesterday, and that was the entire day to look at one student block.
Did it work out well?
Yeah, it's a good block. Yes, it's priced where it needs to be, which is what it is. Whereas 3 weeks ago, I'd been to Sheffield. Again, another student block. Bad conversion, narrow corridors, narrow common rooms. No, and I thought that's
not. You don't always get that information on a picture or a bit of description
you can't see it. No, and it looked a sensible, nice size deal. It looked a sensible deal, but on the ground, it just didn't feel right. And the old adage, you can't be kicking the tires, and we won't buy anything without having looked at it and pored over it, and that's the first phase. So we go through all that, do the numbers, make sure the numbers are right, and that actually gets to the offer stage. Then also, take for example student accommodation, we then get our block managers to go around, do a health and safety assessment, because that is one of your biggest levels of expenditure. Windows don't have proper limitations on them. You have to put those all on, signage and so on. Fire alarm systems. What the vendor might be doing isn't what we will do as a proper landlord. So we do an awful lot before we get to that stage, and then after the deal agreed, then you go into the legal due diligence and actually verifying what they told you. And making sure that's right. And so even where we've actually done some deals where we've agreed the price, put them on the platform, fully funded, so all ready to go. We've gone to the legal due diligence, and example is a block in Southampton. In between agreeing the deal, funding it, and getting to completion, he's gone and let a number of the flats to to a third-party operator, which is almost like holiday lets. For me, that's when I stood back and thought about this and said, I can't get a rent review. And actually, the reality of it was that I can't control who the people he's putting in on a weekly basis these rooms, and this is a student halls. For me, that was a deal breaker, not the level of income of it. It was just the sheer use he's turned it to. It's no longer a student deal. So we walked away from that, and that's the sort of thing we'll do. If they don't pass muster, we're looking at the covenant of the lessees, and if they don't pass muster, we won't do it.
Yeah, fantastic. So a lot more due diligence than your atypical buyer might be able to do, like just from a physical time and knowledge perspective, I guess, when they're considering deals.
And also when you are sometimes it might not be a deal breaker, and there's a solution to it. So we might have a rent underwrite, and it's actually there's nuances after nuances, and if you come to this from fresh. You think, right, for example, we had a rent guarantee which said, they've granted a lease and paid a deposit, that's in occupation. And I said, no, put the actual clause in and taking actual occupation of the flat. So they actually were in there, rather because people can manufacture these sort of things. So it's just having nuance actually to put that extra wording in to protect yourself. And so that's again what we do, that years of experience to bring it to bear on the whole process through to flash to bang.